welcome to Mana Podcast. And today we have Arun from NFactorial. Arun has a very, very interesting story to tell us because he was a PhD in chemical engineering, and then you did something with biotechnology in Singapore, and then you came to ISB, and then you started NFactorial, right? So what is the story behind NFactorial, Arun? Like what is it that made you start this company?
Okay, so essentially, I spent a lot of time in academia, and so I've got about, let's say, 20 years of experience with analytics, right? So I'm a complete data person in different areas. And when I joined the corporate world back from academia, one of the things that used to bug me was the fact that while every other function seemed to use analytics, the power of analytics, people decision making was still largely gut based,
Right.
and that used to bug me a lot. So when I started thinking about starting a company of my own, I knew it would be in analytics, and I looked around various domains, including the biotech domain. But then I realized that where I could make a big difference was in the HR analytics space, because there really weren't too many players, and it seemed to be a niche area.
A requirement also, yeah.
Exactly. So that's how NFactorial got started.
When you were in the biotech field, right? So were you also into data at that point? Like, what were you doing before you started NFactorial? Like, what is your?
Okay, so let me just give you digress briefly into my background. So I finished my engineering in India, went and did my PhD in the US. That was it was in process control algorithms in the chemical space, chemical engineering. So, and then I moved from there to Singapore, where I initially was working on, distributed and high performance computing, and how to apply. Slowly, I moved into how to apply that in the bioinformatics space, which was just taking off, and I'm talking about early 2000 here, right? And then from there, I started. So I had my own research teams. Then I started moving into what is called computational biology, which is more advanced in a sense than bioinformatics, because you're talking about protein structures and DNA sequences and all of that. So that was what I was doing for a long time. From Singapore, I moved to Japan, where I was an assistant professor at Keio University, doing again research in this domain. And after about 14 years outside India, I moved back to India in 2008 with Monsanto. They were looking for somebody with computational biology skills, and I was looking to come back to India at that point. So it worked out pretty well. And somewhere along that time, I got my exec from ISB when I was working for Monsanto. And that's when the bug bit me as to, try to start something of my own.
Oh, so that's when you decided that you'll have to start a company of your own. Okay.
Yeah. But if you come to think about it, right? I mean, people are often surprised when I tell them, "Yeah, I used to be a professor in computational biology, and now I'm doing
something
HR
with
analytics."
HR.
But the thing is, analytics is very fungible. What I mean by that is to give you an example. The very same algorithm that we used to use for identifying cancer patient survival post-surgery is the exact algorithm that we can now use to predict employee attrition.
That's true. I mean, data is data.
Think of it. It
depends on where you apply the algorithm.
Exactly. The algorithms don't change. Just your understanding. If you have an understanding of the domain, then you can the algorithms, I think of them as a toolkit, right? Which I can take out. So regardless of whether, depending on whether it's a screw I'm screwing in or a nut I'm fastening, I can take out the appropriate tool. And that's all there is.
So Arun, I know what exactly NFactorial does, right? So can you just give a small brief for the rest of us to understand what exactly NFactorial does and what is the problem statement that you're addressing through this solution?
Sure. So NFactorial is trying to help organizations improve employee experiences. Okay. The way we do it is by enabling organizations to listen, understand, and act on employee feedback. Okay, in a continuous manner. So if you think about it, there are primarily three ways in which employees and organizations can talk to each other. One is where the employees give feedback to the organization, which traditionally is done on a once a year basis or once in 2 year basis. The second is when employees give feedback to each other. They get to be 360-degree feedback. It could be recognizing a peer or whatever. And traditionally, there are no systemic ways to do it. The third is when the organization gives feedback to employees by means of your performance appraisal process. And what we're trying to do is bring a continuous mechanism into all three of these feedback processes, all within the ambit of the same platform.
Right. And so is this a continuous process? Like, do you do it once annually, or is it time and again?
It is continuous. So what we've done, for example, for the employee feedback to the organization is rather than do surveys. I mean, there are a lot of companies that tend to do these pulse surveys, right?
Correct.
I mean, even if it's not an
everyone takes a survey to understand what is the managerial level, and then the company level, the department level, and that's about it.
Correct, but those I call postmortems because they tell you after the fact what happened, right? Now, a lot of companies also have started doing these pulse surveys where they say, okay, we'll do a survey every month or every 2 weeks or something. We've kind of inverted the survey. So a survey is multiple questions done once. We do it one question at a time, and we ping it multiple times. So that's what
we see if there's any change in opinion.
Yeah, and because of the way we gather data, right? See, the types of analytics that you can bring to bear also change. Okay, so even if you were to do frequent pulses, think of them as snapshots in time, right? So you're taking, if the analogy I can use is, you're taking photographs of how your organization is every few days, and compare it with if you had a video camera running, which had a movie of the same thing. Obviously. That
so you're saying it's just one question or a set of questions that you guys focus on and keep repeating it again and again?
No, a set of questions, yes, but any employee gets only one question at a time.
Okay. And then I think that's better because, when I used to work in an MNC, right, and to get the survey includes basically all the questions because it's done once a year. It's about like a 45 minutes thing where you sit and click, and it gets monotonous, and it's very hard for the managers to actually make the employees go through this because they're busy with so many things, and then they're like, do this, and it's mostly a forced act, right? So if it's just one question, I think nobody will have a problem doing it time and again, right?
Correct. And the other thing is we have a companion app to this as well. So just as you can get employee feedback on a continuous basis, the idea here is you can also get customer feedback. So if you're a customer facing organization in a retail chain or whatever, think of the power that you would have if you could get both employee feedback and customer feedback and be able to line them up.
Because is then the customer feedback on the product or on the employee that is servicing the customer?
No, it could be on a multiplicity of things, right? It could be on the ambience, it could be on the product, it could be on the customer service, whatever you would like to ask the customer. And then you could actually find correlations between what the customer is saying, what your employees are saying. And it throws up really remarkable stuff. Right.
Okay, and what is the stage that NFactorial is at right now? Is it how many clients do you have, or is it yet to start, or what is it?
No, we are in fact we are cash flow positive in that sense. We have revenues flowing in enough to take care of our team as it is currently,
including
and
how big
my
is
own. It's a very small team. We have 5 members.
And they started in 2016.
2014 December. Then we kind of pivoted from our initial product. I had an initial product that was to uncover informal networks within organization. And then I even sold one license to a large US-based IT services company. Then realized it wouldn't scale. And somewhere around September or October of 2015, decided to flip and pivot away from that. Interestingly, though, we've used a lot of that technology back in our module for peer-to-peer feedback and recognitions, because now we can infer informal networks, but based on who is giving feedback to whom or who's recognizing who.
Right. And do you also customize according to what the company requires? Like, is that an option, or is it a set of services that you provide that the company has to choose from?
Yeah, I think we provide a set of services as modules. We have built it in a very modular fashion, so companies can kind of
choose what they want.
Don't really do any massive customization.
Okay. And the pricing is according to the number of employees. If I'm not
The
wrong.
pricing is according to the number of employees. Correct.
Okay. Perfect. All right. And Arun, you said you wanted to share like a small video to just make it more interesting as to what NFactorial.
Sure. Okay.
In today's innovation and technology-driven world, providing employees with a great experience at work is seen as the key to holding on to talent. Presenting a solution, Engage, which allows organizations to listen, understand, and act on 360-degree employee feedback and gives real-time actionable insights. Now, you don't need to rely on a year-old survey to decide on your course of action. Engage uses continuous responses given on questions asked at regular intervals, as well as through peer-to-peer feedback and recognition. Understand and analyze issues in real time using a variety of analytical dashboards and models. Assess the impact of your interventions in days and not months or years through our intervention analysis algorithms. Identify managerial strengths and weaknesses. Create anonymous groups to come up with solutions to your employees' issues in a collaborative manner. Unearth underlying informal networks in your organization and identify key influencers. Link your feedback to rewards. Engage uses employee responses and demographic data to help organizations predict churn. It also has many more interactive features. So don't wait and contact us for a quick demo.
Arun, what do you say your main channel of acquisition? Like, how do you get your customers on board? Like, what is the process? Because it's a B2B, right? And unusual marketing doesn't work with this. Also, there's another query, right? So to sort of accommodate your product into a company, say a big company of global company, right? It takes a lot of internal changes that the company has to go through, and a small change requires like I think 2-3 months for the company to approve and get it started. So, and such a big change takes I think months, right? Like from the time you start decide to go through with this to actually the implementation phase. What is the process like? How does that work?
So it does take time. So what happens is typically companies would want us to do pilots for them, right? Usually we do pilots for a month, or 15 days to a month, and we only do paid pilots. We do not do any free pilots, and we kind of got burnt early on.
Yeah, I think doing free is also like costing you something, right? That's quite a bit.
Exactly, and the point is there's no skin in the game from the other end, right? So this way, at least we know because money is going out of that company, somebody will be asking questions as to whether it's worked or not. So that's what we do, and post that. So our we've acquired a customer within like a month and a half. We've also taken more than 6 months to acquire customers. So there's it could be anywhere between. Depends, but it would typically take 3 to 6 months to acquire a customer.
Okay. All right.
But the good thing about this is once a customer is acquired, then the stickability is large, because if you've done a lot of this and
then they wouldn't want to go back and change. That's true. That's true. So how long do the customers stay according to you? Like 5 years minimum?
So I think at least 3 to 5 years is what I would. Yeah. Okay. So the customer lifetime value for, let's assume you're talking about a customer with about anything over 1,000 or 1,500 employees. The customer lifetime value at about, let's say 3 years would roughly be between 30 and 35 lakhs.
Okay, right. Awesome. And how does the reporting work? Is there a login that they can check, actively, or is it a report that is being sent monthly, weekly? How does that work?
No. So the whole idea is you have real-time dashboards.
Okay.
And so anytime managers can log in and view their dashboard, and it's very interactive in that sense. However, old habits die hard. So they also want us to provide them with downloadable reports. And so we do that as well.
Yeah. So this is the manager side of it. So you do a reverse thing also, right? Where the employees get feedback as well.
Yeah. So the employees the employees also have a version of the dashboard.
Oh, so
it's just that it's a simplified version.
Okay. So everyone has to log in to check what the status is.
No, and we are now integrating that with our mobile app as well. So they don't even need to log in. They can just get to the app and get the entire dashboard.
Okay, perfect. All right. What's your favorite business book?
My favorite business book. I think it has to be the Lean Enterprise. I think by Eric Rice.
Okay.
The Lean Startup. Yeah.
All right. What is success to you?
Having a memorable journey.
Okay. And if you had to recall one childhood memory that that you still remember and you still talk about, what would that be?
I got lost when I was about roughly 1.5 to 2 years old, and I can still remember aspects of it. I think I was gored by a cow along the way, and it finally found me. But yeah,
all right.
That's my earliest memory.
Earliest memory. All right. What is better according to you, certificates or experience?
Experience.
Okay. What was the last movie that you watched and liked?
Last movie that I watched and liked. If it's English, it's The Bucket List.
Okay.
If it's Hindi, it's Dangal.
Okay.
If it's Tamil, it's probably Kabali.
Okay, all right. What advice did you get that, from anyone through your journey, right? What is that one advice that stuck on and that really helped you?
It takes thrice as long as you think, thrice as much cost as you expect to
run a company.
And run a company. Yeah, that's the best advice I got.
Okay. And what is the lowest grade that you ever been given, and what was that for? Like, what did you not do well at in school?
Art. I couldn't draw for nuts. Yeah, easily.
All right. If you have to choose one song that you like, that's your song, right? So that gets into your comfort zone. What song would that be?
Any Kishore Kumar song.
Okay, perfect. All right. What is the first thing that you notice about someone when you meet? It can be, probably a criteria that you actually select for your employees as well, or any one thing that you actually notice about a person.
Passion.
Passion. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the last section of this includes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a word, and you tell me the first thing that comes to your head when I say that word. Right. All right. Happiness.
Yep. Kids.
Okay. Employee experience.
Employee experience. Fundamental.
Okay. Indian startups.
Hard work.
NFactorial.
On the ascendant.
Okay. Friends.
Joy.
Future.
Right.
Okay, perfect. All right. I think we're done with that. Okay, Arun, before we move on to the next section, right, I'm just curious, like, why the name NFactorial?
Well, basically, two reasons. One, I wanted a mathematical sounding name.
Okay.
And New Sigma.
And I think NFactorial is throughout our engineering life. So.
Yeah. And the other thing is it's a nice multiplicative effect, right?
Okay.
So that's how I saw my company's growth. Eventually, hopefully.
Eventually. All right. Okay, Arun. So before we, end the conversation, there are two questions that we usually, talk about, right? To understand what everyone feels and what people who are running the startups currently think about a couple of things. First thing is, what is your take on the startup culture in India, right? Do you think it's being supported enough? Do you think it's it needs more encouragement, or do you think it's doing well, or what is your take on the whole startup culture in India?
Couple of things. One is, especially if you take Bangalore, right? I mean, the startup ecosystem is huge. I mean, there's so many different groups and so much happening. At the same time, what I do feel is where I feel startups can be helped further is especially the seed stage, right? because I've had conversations with, let's say, venture capital folks where they've told me, oh, you know what, hit $1 million in revenue and then you can come to me.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, if I hit $1 million in
why would
revenue,
I come
wouldn't
to you?
need. I need it in the early stage when I've shown you a couple of customers, I've shown you I have a product. Now is when I need you. I think if you look at seed stage funding in India, I think it would still lag way behind what you'd find, let's say, in Silicon Valley or some other areas.
I think in India, everyone wants a fast return, right? So when they see there's something well, and when you see a fast return coming in, that's when people actually invest, and not something that's a slow process, even though it has potential.
Exactly. So that to me, seed stage funding, if that can improve, I think that would really help a lot of startups.
Okay, perfect. And second thing is, what is that one advice that you would give for people who are just starting up, or a problem that you went through and you found a solution to it, so that people don't have to go through it again? So what is that one piece of advice that you would give the startups who are just starting up?
Don't start alone. Start with a co-founder or co-founder.
I remember you telling me this, right? So why didn't you get a co-founder on board? Like, did you have plans of, or did you think I'll start alone and then probably get someone else on board later?
I think it was just I don't think I actively sought a co-founder. Actually, if I had to do it again, I would look for a co-founder with, say, sales and marketing experience and startup.
Okay.
Right?
And
it's just a mistake I made. It's not something that, I just made a mistake. I should have looked for somebody. I didn't. I thought I could do it all.
Are you planning to look at someone now?
I've always keeping my eyes open for somebody. I just haven't found the right person. Right?
What is it that you look at a co-founder? Like what qualities do you look? In passion?
Look, passion is a given. For me, passion is the first thing. You have to have the person should be invested personally. So there has to be skin in the game along with me, and has to bring complementary skill sets. So if I'm an analytics, I'm a data person. So what I would look for is somebody who would bring in the sales and marketing and all that kind of experience, right? So that's what I look for.
Okay, perfect. All right, Arun, I think we're done. Thank you so much for your time, and it was wonderful talking to you.